go on mute for a little bit, if you would. Now, thank you so much, sir. Anything else you want to say about today and this week? And then we will come to FPL, who I think FPL you should be in by now, so that's great. You can cover off that. Mal, anything else you want to add, sir? And thank you so much for the kind comments.
It's just a typical Watford week, and really looking forward to playing City next week.
I tell you what, if any one thing will get us through, it's a refusal to look facts in the face.
Agree, 100%. Thank you very much.
You are a star. Thank you, FPL sir. You've been waiting an awful long time. If you want to click the mic button at the bottom and tell us what you're thinking, sir.
Oh, thanks for letting me on, lads.
Not at all.
As you can imagine, my voice is croaking because of the shouting, not just encouragement, but also frustration today. It has been a roller coaster of an afternoon, and ultimately I think that game has summed up our season quite poignantly. What I will say is the defence just make errors, and that despite however well we play going forward, and I thought Hassane Kamara today was superb, but ultimately it just doesn't amount to anything because at the end of the day we don't take chances. That chance crucially missed just before the Brentford goal. And then also, when we do concede from set pieces, and there was that chance where Brentford whipped it in, Watford whipped it in, and Brentford, I think it came off Janssen, and it went out for a corner, and that could have easily gone in for an own goal. And it was just that moment, I think, on its own, summed up our season. Great intentions, lacking quality in the fact that we actually can't have the shot ourselves and it comes off a Brentford player, but just not enough, and even an own goal isn't given to us with that chance that goes wide. So ultimately a very, very frustrating result, but I think performance-wise we have not seen the Vic bouncing like that since probably when we went and got the equaliser at home to Palace, which feels like an absolute age ago. So there's a lot to take from today, but ultimately that's the writing on the wall in terms of the result, I think.
No, I agree completely, and good points well made. I mean, fundamentally, we were talking about the fact that, when we get the ball and we're moving forward, everything looks like it's off the cuff, nothing looks really very planned, and when teams attack us, and let's face it, they didn't do a huge amount of attacking today. We had more time on the ball and more possession than they did, but we just look like we've got such a glass jaw, and we're ready to crumble, which is dreadful. Would you agree with all of that?
For sure. I think the worst thing about these games that we're losing, I think of who we've lost against. Brighton, Crystal Palace, Leeds. These are teams that aren't that special. They're a 5 out of 10 most weeks, and they've done enough to stay up. Fair enough to them. They've won the games that they've needed to, but we have made them look so much more of a team than they really are, and that's because of our inability to see out games and our inability to be competitive in games, and that honestly is why we're going to be relegated, because we have just not been in the right mindset for these games against the smaller teams, so-called smaller teams, and that will see us relegated. It won't be the defeat against Liverpool and the inevitable defeat against Man City next season, the 19-0 defeat. It will be the games against Leeds that we haven't got ourselves up for, the Norwich game we haven't got ourselves up for. So I think that's where the problem lies. And the problem that I see is that we don't start games well. So that always puts us on the back foot. And that always means we're chasing the game. And then even when we go back into it, we never seem to kick on from that point. When we scored and when that goal went in, it was great irony, wasn't it? When the Brentford fans chanting, "Sit down, shut up," and we chant back the same thing. But ultimately, it doesn't matter. If we switch off like we did for the first goal and like we did for the second, you pay for it. And that is, football is cruel sometimes, but we just switch off too often.
Football is cruel always. FPL, thank you, sir. Roberto, some great points. Gus, just going to come to you, sir. I've let you in so you'll be able to come off mute and take it in. For me, I thought the real kind of twist in it was when we missed. King missed it or hit the post, and then loser went. And the Brentford fans, who are having a wonderful season and fair play to them, no problems with that, started chanting, That's why you're going down.
Hello, and today we are doing a match day vlog for the Premier League fixture between the Hornets and the Bees. Yes, it's Insect Saturday, and we are round 33 of the Premier League, I do believe. This is our 32nd game of the season, though. Obviously, we've got that game in hand against Everton at home. But to be honest, going by the Crystal Palace game and the Wolverhampton game, I'm not sure if we really want games in hand right now, because we have been absolutely dreadful, and we are destined to be in the Championship next season. So we're currently 6 points adrift with 7 to play. I mean, I kind of look at this season and think it's just been a bit of a mess from start to finish. So if we can salvage anything, it would probably most likely be a bit of encouragement going into the Championship, some kind of half-hearted performances made into some kind of spirited performances, just to give us a little bit of something to latch onto. But it really has been a lot of misery. But we go into this obviously off the back of that damning defeat to Leeds, which basically showed the writings on the wall. We're going to be in the relegation 3 slots. But you know, unless we show some kind of spirit today and some kind of miracle happens where we pick up points at Chelsea and Man City, then we're brown bread. But yeah, really poor against Leeds. I mean, we were just all over the place from start to finish, and Cabaselli came out and said after the game, you know, Brentford is another big one. We'll make sure we don't drop, and we'll make sure we go all out for the 3 points. But how many times have we been promised that, and then we get absolutely dished up an absolute monstrous performance of players making mistakes, not showing enough energy, not showing enough quality, not creating enough chances, and losing the game comfortably. And really, we're just not using our home advantage, and that is even causing us a disadvantage this season, because as soon as we start playing poorly, as you would fully expect, us Watford fans want to kind of interrogate that and say, no, that's not really good enough. We should be going for these games and actually showing a bit more quality in them, because we've got some players that at the start of the season you thought, okay, we're not brilliant, but we should do enough to stay up. But this team is slowly but surely transformed into a Championship quality side that really has just not got anything about it. So, injury news going into this: Cucho Hernandez has been ruled out for pretty much the rest of the season. The only game he might come back for is the final day in that game at Stamford Bridge. With that injury he suffered against Leeds was a bit of a blow in the game, because at that point he was playing quite well, quite lively. But he pulled up. It's never good to see those muscular injuries, and looked like a hamstring, so not a good one. And apparently the scan has not been a great result, so yeah, he's not going to be back for any time soon. So that means a change in personnel. We saw Dennis come on against Leeds, wasn't really that inspiring, but that means he'll probably start this week alongside Ismail Assar, and you'd imagine it's Joao Pedro. I don't think Joshua King has really done anything to say I've got just as much chance of playing than Pedro. I think Pedro was really good against Liverpool, and really should have scored more, but ultimately at least he's putting in the work rate, and that's again what he did against Southampton, and also against Leeds. Even if the quality wasn't there, Pedro at least he gets stuck in and tries to get something going. But I don't know, it's looking pretty desolate. Brentford come into this obviously off the back of a really good win against West Ham. Goals from Brian and Wermo and Ivan Toney. They're a good double act. They set each other up all the time. And, you know, we all remember the reverse fixture, that last-minute penalty for Brian and Wermo. I never know if it's Mbeumo or Mbeumo or Buemo. I don't know. I don't really care. At this point, we need to keep him quiet. We need to keep Ivan Toney quiet, because he's been in really, really strong form for Brentford. He's now got, in the last kind of few weeks, the same amount of goals in terms of like minutes per game, just in the last few weeks, as Kane and Ronaldo. So that just shows how in form Ivan Toney is, and he loves a penalty. So if we're foolish enough to give them away, then you think you know where the ball is going, in the back of the net. So we need to keep him quiet, but also Christian Eriksen. Now, I'll talk about it from a football point of view. What we saw in the game against Finland was very, very distressing back in 2021, and it's just great from a footballing perspective to see this guy who I thought, number one, was not going to live, number two, was not going to be setting his foot on the football field again, not just to be playing football again, not just to be enjoying it, but to be playing in the Premier League for a team like Brentford, who, I've got to be honest, this season have been a fresh team come in, and they've been a breath of fresh air. The football they've played, the kind of trust they've put in Thomas Frank, we really could learn a lot from this Brentford team. They've got a system, they've got a style, they've got an identity, and they have stuck to it. And admittedly, it was a long slog in the Championship for them trying to get promoted. They didn't get promoted last season. Obviously, losing the final to Fulham, that would have been a real blow, but they kept at it, and that kind of persistence paid off, and now they've got a really well-functioning team. Now, again, we say this, we'll see whether next season Brentford turn into a bit of a Sheffield United, and whether it's the more second season syndrome that kind of means that teams work them out. But I honestly feel like they've got a really good system. David Raya in goal is a very good, capable shot stopper. He was sorely missed when he was out injured, and Fernandes came in, and they brought in Lursel. So really, he's going to be tough to get past today. Also, they've got a solid defence. They've got some good set-piece threats from Janssen to Pinnock. David Raya, he might be good at distribution, but we've also got some very good fullbacks in that Brentford team that, we saw against Brighton as well quite recently. We simply cannot let fullbacks whipping crosses, and someone like, I don't know, I kind of think they do rotate the fullbacks a lot. You've got like Roeslev, and you've got who's the other fullback they've got that comes in, the left back? I've completely forgotten his name, but I'm sure it will come to me in a second. They've got options there, and I think the midfield battle is going to be the difference between winning and losing this game today. So Christian Norgard obviously scored in that opening game of the season against Arsenal, plays for Denmark, and it's just a very tough tackler, and he's actually made the most tackles this season of any Premier League player. He's very good at just stopping possession and getting stuck in, and that's what Musa Sissoko and Juraj Kucka also need to do today, and Vitaly Janelt can do a similar job. So it's kind of a defensive midfielder battle between those four players: Sissoko, Janelt, Kucka, and Norgard. So look, it's going to be a tough game. I think Brentford have been a good side this season, but we really need to play to our strengths, and our strengths right now are not a lot, other than get it to Dennis, get it to Sarr, see what they can do. I mean, Sarr last week was absolutely dreadful. Just every time that the ball came to him, it felt like he just wanted an opportunity to invite the challenge, and that meant that he was always just looking for a free kick rather than looking to actually get down the wing and burst on and take on the fullback. He really just looks sluggish, looks very, very low on confidence, and I think the looming transfer that he will inevitably make is just kind of playing on his mind a little bit. It's meaning that we're just looking like a team that's just not really in the zone, not really in the right mindset to kind of engage with these games and get the most points out of them. So it's going to be a tough one. Predicted lineup: in goal, Ben Foster. I think there's no debate that he's a much better goalie than Bachmann this season. Then I play a back four. Now, I actually would change it up a little bit here because I've not been inspired recently by our centre-back pairings. I mean, we've just changed it up so much this season. We've had Troost-Ekong and Cathcart. We've had Cathcart and Samir. We've had Cathcart and Kabasele. We've had Samir and Kabasele. I don't know. Kabasele was all right against Leeds, but should he be being beaten for that third goal goes through his legs from Hassane. And then obviously we all knew what happened between Kamara and Samir. But that was a mistake. Is that going to happen every week? Well, we've been making mistakes all season, so it just seems like the mistakes aren't the thing that's changing. What's changing is the players that make those mistakes. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, Samir has been an improvement on what we had since he's come in. So even though it wasn't great last week, I'd still start Samir. I don't know about Kafka. I think he's a really interesting one. It's just like, are we getting that desperate that we're relying on such an aging centre back to help us out? Maybe we play, instead of Kabasele, we play who was the other one I was thinking about? Sierrata's injured, so I don't think that will happen.
He was on the bench last week.
Yeah, he was on the bench last week, but he's now got injured again. And also, I think Kabasele might be injured. I might have seen that somewhere, but I'm not sure. This might be a punt, but is I'm trying to think of what his name is now, because he's just not played barely any games. And Kulu, is he back fit?
He's supposedly, yeah.
So if he's back fit, it might be a bit of a risk because he's come in from the cold a little bit, because he's not played a league game for like ages since, like, I think we played him in November against Arsenal away, and I don't know, he might have played another game, but ultimately I think he's better to fit in there. It gives me more confidence. I don't know, maybe we put him in. If not, it'll probably be just the same Kabasele and Samir, or Kabasele and Cathcart. But I would go with Samir, to be honest, and I'd go with Nkulu. Then fullbacks, I don't think we can really debate who the fullbacks are. It's going to be Samir, it's going to be Kamara, and it's going to be Femenia. Kamara, yeah, he made a mistake for the game against Leeds, but also he did play quite well in parts, and was driving forward, had that opportunity where he was kind of making a few good runs, and then I think after he made a driving run, Pedro then had the shot and he blazed over. So he's got that determination, Kamara, that we need at this level, and I hope every player in that Watford shirt puts on that same determination. And then Kiko is just, for what he gives us going forward, I mean, he doesn't show enough of it. Last week he was just so hesitant to push forward, and that's a real problem. When you want to see Sarr and Femenia link up, and then either Sarr doesn't show the effort to get forward, or Kiko doesn't show the effort to get there on the overlap, then you're not utilising that really good link up. And we need to do that, because when we saw that against Arsenal at home a few weeks back, we had people like Kiko on the overlap crossing in for Cucho, and that's where the goal comes from. So we need to see a bit more of that, a bit more forward thinking in terms of our attack. But I'd probably play a 4-4-2. The reason I say that is I don't want us to be too defensively, at risk. I know we have played the 4-3-3 a lot this season, but I just worry that, is 3 enough in midfield? Is that enough protection for the back 4? So we could play a 4-4-2. We could do 2 holding midfielders rather than just Sissoko. We could have Sissoko and Loser in that 4, and then we could go for, on the left, Dennis, on the right, Sarr, and then up front we could have King, and who else is there? There's no one else. Pedro? Oh yeah, I suppose. So it's a bit of a gamble there, I know, to play King. So that does make it harder to play the 4-4-2. So we could just play a 4-3-3, and then those 3 in midfield: Loser, Sissoko, Kutska. I mean, I don't see why. I mean, Kutska's a really hard one, because puts in the effort every week, but he's just so inconsistent with his performances. And it's like, if he's really good, he can be a 9 out of 10, but then the next week he could be a 1 out of 10. So is it better to have Cleverley? Well, Cleverley's made lots of mistakes recently. Then you think about maybe a Thibaut. Is he back from injury? If he is, he was at the start of the season so good in his performances against, like, Wolves. Okay, maybe not Wolves, but against who was it? Aston Villa was really good. So a Thibaut, if he's back from injury, I would honestly put him in ahead of Kutska. But I think Kutska's the best kind of lesser of 2 evils from what we've got right now available. So that would be my 3 in midfield: a Thibaut, Loser, Sissoko, and obviously Kutska if a Thibaut's not ready yet. And then the front three speaks for itself. It's got to be Dennis, it's got to be Sarr, and it's got to be Pedro, I think, because you're not going to probably play King. Pedro is exciting. He just needs more end product. He needs to stop trying to think he can take on the whole team and score on his own. Like, he just makes the simple passes a bit more often, then he would get more routes to goal. And you know, sometimes he just needs to look up, see a player. I remember the chance that we should have passed better for Pedro in the second half of that Leeds game. You know, there was Dennis on the ball and Pedro makes a run. He's in so much space and Dennis passes into the space where there's no Watford players, and then we misplaced the pass. How many misplaced passes were there last week? A lot. So I don't want to see that sloppiness today. I want to see us actually on our game. We've had a lot of time to reflect on that Leeds game. I know that we're not going to be perfect overnight, but at least a bit more average. That's a bit better than the Leeds game. So hopefully it comes out on top. Hopefully we actually win. Just win. Like, we haven't won since Aston Villa, and that feels like an absolute age ago. Sorry, Southampton was the last win, but that feels like an age ago even now. Since that Liverpool and the Leeds game, we've been losing for fun. So lose again today and we are in uncharted territory. We would be equaling and, you know, going the alt-right top record for the most consecutive home defeats in the Premier League. Sunderland did it, and I think they did it actually between 2003 and 2005, so that's actually in the space of 3 years, and we would be doing that in the space of 2 years. But they lost 10 home games in a row. We are currently on 9, which is joint with Wolves for the second worst record of defeats at home that they got. I think they got under Mick McCarthy around 2012. So look, honestly, we are in dire straits right now. This squad is a championship team right now, and if Hodgson saves us up from this point, then honestly, it's a miracle. But without Cucho, without much hope in our defence to keep a clean sheet, I think we're going to probably lose again today. But the Watford fan in me says, be optimistic. As much as you have been told not to be optimistic this season, based on our performances, based on our results, who knows? Watford 1, Brentford 0 is what I'm predicting. The only goal of the game comes from Ismaila Sarr, assisted by João Pedro, a cross in from the left-hand side, and a diving header from the Senegalese on 73 minutes. But what is your scoreline prediction today for the game? What are you saying?
I'd love to think we were going to win, but I just can't see it. So I can't. Say 2-0 Brentford. 2-0
Brentford. And I think the players to watch out for are, of course, Christian Eriksen, with what I was saying about just from a footballing point of view, but from a Brentford point of view as well. He's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. He's a playmaker. He scores free kicks. He takes corners. He's so classy. And I'd imagine Janssen comes back in because he's been out with illness, and I think he's back now. So we need to watch set pieces. As always, we seemingly cannot defend set pieces, and it should be nice to kind of have some chances today, even if we waste them. You know, we only really had one chance that I can think of against Leeds, and that was the Sarr one, where really we should have done better. And I really do like, I just think to Hodgson, fair play. You're so optimistic in the face of adversity, but he was really optimistic, and that was worrying against Leeds. You know, we need to kind of be realists as well. If we see a performance that we can actually take something from, then we're going down, but at least there's some kind of positivity. But really, I think Hodgson was taking positivity out of that Leeds game where there wasn't really any. So we need to be really just trying to do something today, try and organise this mess to some extent, and see what happens. But yeah, as I say, 1-0 prediction for me. I'll probably say realistic prediction is 3-1 Brentford, because I don't know, we're so poor right now. But come on, you Warns, the matchday vlog starts here, people. I'll see you at full time. Let's do it. Well, that's not what I expected. Saturday, the 16th of April, 2022. Never happened. I think you'll find it actually never happened. Today's Sunday, the 17th of April, and it's Easter Sunday. I can't wait to eat all the chocolate and enjoy the good match on TV. West Ham against Burnley and Newcastle against Leicester City. There's going to be plenty of goals. It's finished at the Vicarage Road Stadium. Watford 1, Brentford 2. How? I mean, I just don't understand. I just do not understand how that game has finished a W for Brentford. How? They did it in the reverse fixture at the Brentford Community Stadium, and they've done it again. Absolute daylight robbery. Football is cruel. That is for sure. Brentford, 5 out of 10 at best. But that doesn't get reflected in the result because set pieces, throw-ons, little lapses is all it takes for Brentford to turn the game around, take home the points back to West London. Honestly, I'm absolutely fuming. Not fuming with Watford, but just fuming with football in general. How? That is why we are going to be playing Coventry and Huddersfield and Birmingham and Troy Deeney next season. Because despite all the positivity, despite the goal we scored today, despite the Vic bouncing for the first time in donkeys, we still lose. The last kick of the game, Ericsson, we know he's got good set pieces, whips it in, one lapse, and there is Janssen to head home. He headed home in the first game, he's done it again in the reverse fixture. And it's cruel, because the performances, not just as a team, but individually, were much, much better. Let's start off with Ben Foster. Ben Foster in the game didn't have a lot of individual saves to make, because Brentford didn't create a lot. As I say, very average Brentford today. And second half, Brentford were backs to the wall. We were really getting at Brentford and looking much, much better as an attacking outlet. But what is it we do? We lack that sharpness. We lack that mentality to stay firm in a game and stay on it. But no. And Ericsson is the set-piece master. We know this from his time at Tottenham. But yet, we don't clear it away. We know that Brentford have got good, tall centre-backs that head the ball, and that's what Janssen does. Foster, I don't know what else he could have done today, but really, what an absolute shame of a season to tarnish a goalkeeper who has been in the game for so long and made so many saves. It's a real shame. So Ben Foster, the cycling GK, has become a bit of a meme, to be honest, and that doesn't really reflect the footballer, because he's a great guy and it's just gone down the pan with him this season, in terms of he's been conceding goals and there's nothing we can do about it. Left back Hassane Kamara today, absolutely superb. And how many times have we said that this season? Since he's come in the January transfer window, the Ivory Coast international has been an inspired transfer from OGC Nice. But yet, when it matters, there is just still enough defenders in our back four to make the mistakes, to cancel out that hard work from Hassane Kamara. He must be thinking today, what more can I do? Because, you know, the amount of times, there was a time where Hassane Kamara puts on the afterburners, goes for it, wins the ball back, shows the desire, shows the passion, and then Kutska just gives it away after he wins it back. It's like, why does Hassane Kamara even bother? Because the rest of his team don't have the same attitude. They aren't reciprocating back that same positivity. and it just gets wasted on us. And if we lose a game heavily and completely throw away our chance and opportunities and look a team beaten and trodden and just lifeless, then you think the writing's on the wall, the fate is sealed, and we've really got no complaints from a individual kind of hard work and quality of players' point of view. But today, when we go a goal down, as always, we don't ever score the first goal of the game. And then we show that fighting spirit. This fighting spirit that has to have been shown. I would say quadruple the amount of games that we have shown it. It should have been in other games this season. And I'm not saying that fighting spirit guarantees results, because today is an example of it. But it gets you closer to getting results. So let's think of some examples. Brighton away. Wolverhampton Wanderers at home. Leeds United away. Those games, Norwich City away. Norwich City at home, I should say. Those games where we surrender the opportunities for points and we blow the chances of actually going for games, they have already set us on the back foot. For the games where we do go for it and we don't get anything from, well, too late, sunshine. If we'd have actually gone for it sooner, then we wouldn't be having so much on the line as we are now. And that, my friends, is why we are going down, 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 down. We might as well make a song of it, because it is happening. We said it was happening after Leeds. It definitely is now. And that is a real kick in the teeth, because the goals today, avoidable. Absolutely avoidable. We talk about some key chances in that first half for either side. Well, we actually did start off the better team, created some chances, really good atmosphere, really good tempo from Watford to start the game, and a big opportunity for Ismail Assar. But what we don't do enough this season, and when we have, we've scored from it, is Kiko Femenia on the overlap. Now, we said about last week how poor Ismail Assar was. He was much better today, to be fair to him. Created the chance for the Dennis goal and was lively, right? But the problem is when your key asset, Ismail Assar, who, if you'd pin one player who might, on his own, single-handedly keep us up, it would be him. But that's a big ask, and the problem is we've not got the best from Sarr this season. We've got flashes, but we've not got the best. So with that comes a kind of refusal of any chances that we have to then stay up, because your star man is not at his peak. But he did have a chance today, and Kiko Femenia needs to be doing it more, but when he can, get on the overlap and cross that in. We know Kiko is our best deliverer of the ball. And I honestly felt it was a strange decision from Ray, from Roy, and the management team today to take off Kiko Femenia. Now, part of me thinks, okay, we're at 1-1. We know that losing this game would be a disaster. We lose it. But the point I was saying was, we're at 1-1. It was about, I'd say maybe, because we made two subs, right? We took off, I'm trying to think who it was now, Pedro for King, and we also took off Kutska for Cleverley, right? The Cleverley one I agree with, because Kutska, once he's given a bit of effort, he burns out quite quickly, so that's fine. Should that have been done probably 20 minutes earlier? Yes, because it didn't feel like Cleverley got enough time to influence the game. And the King one, maybe it's a bit harsh on Pedro, but you kind of think, okay, just give King a chance. He had an opportunity quite soon after coming on where it got played down in behind, and you think those are the kind of chances King should latch onto, but it in the end came to nothing. But then after that, those two substitutions, so we could have made the triple substitution because it's that late in the game, but yet we delay it and then we make a last substitution, Cathcart on for Femenia. Now, I get why he's trying to do it, because he's trying to say we do not lose this game. But at the same time, that extra push on, that extra gear change in the final crucial minutes of the game, when it's a 1-1, you have to throw hammer and tongs at it. Now, yes, okay, previous seasons, I remember that Everton game in the 1920 season where it was 2-2, we had to go for it, and by going for it, that cost us. We were left caught on a counter-attack, and Walcott scored. I remember that game vividly. And there is, of course, the counter of that. But Brentford aren't a counter-attacking team. They're a set-piece team. So, I don't know why we went into our shell a little bit there, brought on Cathcart. That meant that we weren't having Kiko in the overlap. The only attacking fullback we had there was Kamara. So then, where are we going to get that link up with Ismail Assar? We're not. So, that was an interesting one. But ultimately, what we're doing there for the chance that goes in the back of the net from Brentford, I do not know in the first half, because once that header is over from that cross from Kiko, the header from Sarr, that's a big opportunity wasted. But really, not enough opportunities as always. But the performance was there. But doesn't matter, because then in one moment we switch off and Christian Norgard opens the scorings just like he did score in the game up at the Brentford Community Stadium in August to open the season, that win over Arsenal, with a header, and I think it was another header. It was knocked on, flicked on, and it was followed home. So look, at the end of the day, we should not be letting defensive midfield tackling midfielders sneak into the box and score. So yeah, we need to be looking at that. But there was some sort of reaction to that. You know, we had some kind of build up, but really not enough. So you kind of think going into half time, that's the worst possible thing to concede first. But there's a second half change around. You know, we saw a different performance in that second half, didn't we? And that was encouraging. So from the get-go, it looks like the team, you know, Hodgson got into them at half time, you know, got a rocket up the backside and said, actually, we can do this. We just need to believe in it and really get at Brentford and test Raya some more, because he wasn't being tested enough. So then second half comes around and we see it. We see the pressing. We see the ability, the desire. And that chance for Dennis, I mean, it was a really good attack. And that goal was a brilliant finish from the Nigerian. That is what we've seen in flashes this season. We've not seen it enough recently, but in flashes, and he has been one of our main players this season. The transfer from Club Brugge was a risk, and it has paid off, because without Dennis's goals, we'd be down already. What a finish, and the Brentford fans cheering, ironically, when it gets ruled out for offside, and they say, sit down, shut up. I've got to say today, the Brentford fans, you know, Leeds last week, you know, there's this stereotype that Leeds fans are really unpleasant and, you know, get in your faces and really hard to cope with. But they were, you know, very, very noble last week. They celebrated, they cheered just for their team, and there wasn't any of the, you know, bad sportsmanship. But today, the Brentford fans, honestly, really need to look at themselves, because they, since the start of the game, they were already, the game had only just kicked off, and they were chanting, going down with the Norwich. Like, let's just stop, right? The game's 0-0. Nothing's happened yet. Focus on your own team, Brentford fans. Not having any of it. And then when that gets disallowed from Dennis, they're already on our backs, okay? When it's a marginal offside, what's Dennis supposed to do? They're making fun of it and telling us to shut up. But we're the home fans. We're trying to rile up this team. And Brentford, they got nothing to play for, sure. But is that because Brentford are world class? No. They've done enough, sure. They've played good football, but it's partly just the poor three teams in that relegation zone. Burnley, Norwich and us. All absolutely cut adrift from the rest. Now, Everton might still go down, sure. But us and Norwich, yes, we're poor. And let's just imagine a season like the 2019-20 season. Let's say Brentford go into that season. Do they stay up? We went down on the final day against Arsenal. A squad that really shouldn't have gone down, with likes of, obviously Delafeu got injured, but the likes of Holebas, your likes of Welbeck, Dawson, experienced players, good players that should not have gone down, Roberto Pereira, etc. So this season, I honestly feel if you put that squad from the 1920 season into this season, they stay up. But we've gone down, we've gone backwards because of that relegation. And the fans were brilliant today. If we have those fans in the 1920 season, I'm not saying we stay up, but we have much more of a 50-50 chance. So, look, ultimately, it was brilliant irony when those Brentford fans were chanting, they say, oh, we shouldn't have celebrated, but actually, VAR there. I've gone out on about it all season, but it does well there. It's done what it's needed to do. Correct decision. Dennis is onside. We are absolutely bouncing just to see a goal at Vicarage Road, let alone draw level for the first time since that Palace game. But what you feared was, what we always do, is we score and you think, can we push on from there? Can we then do something else? Well, we really did push on in terms of performance. As soon as that goal from Dennis went in, we were the better team. We were getting at Brentford, launching attacks, keeping going. But the longer it stayed 1-0, the longer you thought, squeaky bum time. How many goals have we conceded in the final 5 minutes of games this season? A lot. So then, the last few minutes of the game, you think, oh my gosh, I'm honestly nervous. I mean, defending today was still poor. We have to accept that. You know, the amount of times we let teams get through. Like, there was a few set pieces in the first half of Brentford where they throw it in from that long throw that obviously caused the problems for the first goal. And then we just head it up into the air. We don't clear it properly. So then there's always the opportunity for Brentford to follow it in, have another chance. And there was an opportunity that they put wide in the first half. But then also in the second half, Ivan Toney, given the freedom of the pitch to have a shot, and it's put in behind, great ball, and he kind of just hits it on the volley, and it just dribbles past the post. Really should be scoring. And then another opportunity for Toney, where, again, we switch off. A little bit of a lapse, and an audacious attempt from Ivan Toney. If that goes in, they'll be talking about it for years, but it's unlucky that it doesn't, from his point of view. It just goes past the post, tries to catch out Foster with the lob. Lucky for Watford that it doesn't go in. But Brentford, as I mentioned, very bang average today, and we should not be losing that football match. At 1-1, at least see it out, and that is football. Football is cruel. There's nothing that can explain how we lost that game today, other than lapses, mistakes, and ultimately, that is what's going to send us down. I honestly don't think the players could have given any more today, and that's what really gets me, is that when we lose and we honestly don't have any more effort that we could have laid out on the pitch, it's like Brentford, they haven't won today based on their effort. They've won based on their set-piece skills. They've just done a bit more set-piece training on the training ground. That's it. They've got Christian Eriksen to whip in crosses. That's it. So, I really despair. The goal from Janssen shouldn't have been allowed from our defensive point of view. He shouldn't be getting that in the back of the net. And I just don't know where we go from here. Like, we're confirmed down in any other sense of the word, but mathematically. The crowd were up for it. The team were up for it today, but the result does not reflect that. So, our defence is poor. There's no going away from it, but our team is not poor today. Honestly, I really lose words, and I lose kind of any kind of belief when that kind of result happens. So, next week, we look ahead to the Championship. We think about how we set up in the Championship. Do we get a long-term manager like a Diego Martinez or a Sean Dyche? I don't know, but got to do something. So we can hold our heads high. We can really look at today and think that was something, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough, and it's really upsetting, to be honest, because I know there's a lot of players today that put in the hard yards, like Hassane Kamara, but it's just not enough. So I don't know. The midfield today, if we look at it from a kind of performance point of view, Musa Sissoko I thought was sloppy. I really did. I thought he could have done a lot better in periods in the game. Just sloppy. I mean, I think we just need to be better at sensing where there's danger and then cutting it out. But we just don't seem to read the opportunities before it comes. Like that goal from Norgard, like Ayer flicks it on. You've got to get there first, and you've got to get there before that flick on even happens. But we're too slow, and oh my gosh, how many times, as good as Dennis was today with his goal that he took well, oh my gosh, that man tests my patience. I mean, there was a point in the first half where he's juggling with it like he's Ronaldinho in our own penalty box. He heads it about 50 times when he couldn't clear it. Just release the ball, man. Oh my gosh. And then other times in the game, there was, I think, about 5 million opportunities where Dennis gets it on the halfway line. We start to breaking attack. We've got on the left options, on the right options. The Watford whole team is pushing up collectively. Dennis is on the ball. And what does he choose to do? Dribble. Oh, would you believe it? A Brentford player's tackled. Wonder why? Because they sense that Dennis is not going to do anything with it. And yeah, they might as well take it off him because, you know, what more is a Brentford player supposed to do? Well, yeah, they take it off him. It's just brainless. I just cannot feasibly understand where the decision making there has completely gone out the window from us, and that's cost us. That's cost us this season. Losses in both games, late on. Football is cruel against Brentford, 2-1 both times. They've done the double. They've not been brilliant in both performances, and yet we make our own problems. Yet also fighting spirit shown, and record breakers, 10 home victories for the... I'm sorry, I say victory. I mean victories for the opposition in a row in our last 10 home games. But we have, honestly, I don't know how we've managed it, but we are now the outright, along with Sunderland, the outright worst home team in the Premier League. Wow. Oh, that's going to be fun next week when we have whoever we got, Everton. And we lose to become the worst Premier League home team of all time. Whoopee, can't wait for that. And guess who we've got next? Guess who, people? Manchester City. If we concede 19 goals, I won't bat an eyelid. So let's move on to the Championship. Forget this season, hibernate now. Let's not come back and forget 2022. 2023 is going to be the year Watford get back into the Premier League, I'm telling you. Thanks for watching. Man of the match today. Oh, do I have to? I think I do. It's tempting to give it to Dennis because we've actually scored a goal for once. But I'm going to go Hassane. As really frustrating as our defence has been, Hassane has been my guy. My guy. Absolute legend. Sissoko I thought was sloppy. Kutska. I don't know what to make of Kutska, honestly.
Kabasele.
Oh, Kabasele as well, yeah. I talked about Kiko, I talked about Kamara. Samir today I thought was poor. I don't know about you, but it was alright. But Kabasele for sure. I mean, maybe he should have done better for the goal that we conceded. But in terms of the performance throughout the rest of the game, Kabasele was absolutely superb. So full credit to Hodgson for keeping that partnership. It is probably our best two centre-backs, but yet doesn't matter because we still could lose games. But yeah, as I was saying, Kutska's a really hard one to work out because it feels like it's been a waste of a transfer, but at the same time, you know, we haven't got a gifted midfield. Other than Loser, we haven't really got players with star quality, so it's just up and down effort, sometimes not that quality, but it's kind of hard to rate Kutska today, either bad nor good, because he was just meh. It was just can't really comment. But Loser today I thought was really very, very strong once again. He just gets the ball going. You know, whenever he gets the ball, he plays it wide. He switches out wide. You know, just that's what I want to see from him in the Championship. If he stays, I hope he does. And then up front, you would expect it really from João Pedro, just more of trying to do stuff, but not doing anything. He's got so much potential, João Pedro. Showed it in the Championship. Flashes of it this season, but really not enough to get you off your seat. And Dennis, so frustrating, but he scores today. And Ismail Assar, I mean, might as well just get as much money as we can for that kid, because we're really going to scrape the barrel at this point, I think. King came on, not enough time to get involved, really not enough time, and it's just such a washed career for that lad, because his peak was at Bournemouth, and then since he left Bournemouth, he's just not got it going. He's just Andre Gray 2.0. One game against Everton, that's it, that he did well against. Maybe when we play Everton in the game at the Vic, maybe he can finally find his shooting boots, but it's just superstitions. So yeah, the only positive I think I can take from today was that the performance was amazing, and also, well, I say amazing, that's obviously relative to our other performances, but also Aurelio Gomez paper, great to see him. I just want to hark back to the days of Aurelio Gomez and the days of Javi Gracia, but get me out of this world, get me out of this time, this present day, because I'm not liking it. Watford 1, Brentford 2. See you next time. Bye.